made these men? Who raised these boys? Who raised these male youth? Who raised them? Who raised them? He got trauma. The question you ask is, who raised him? Who contributed to his trauma? But they don't want to deal with that. She doesn't want to deal with that.
I couldn't help but notice your pain.
My pain?
It runs deep. Share it with me.
Babies this young are extremely responsive to the emotions and the reactivity and the social interaction that they get from the world around them. This is something that we started studying 30, 40 years ago, when people didn't think that infants could engage in social interaction. In the still face experiment, what the mother did was she sits down and she's playing with her baby who's about a year of age.
Oh, you my good girl. Oh.
And she gives a greeting to the baby gives a greeting back to her.
Yeah.
This baby starts pointing at different places in the world, and the mother's trying to engage her and play with her. They're working to coordinate their emotions and their intentions, what they want to do in the world. And that's really what the baby is used to. And then we ask the mother to not respond to the baby. The baby very quickly picks up on this, and then she uses all of her abilities to try and get the mother back. She smiles at the mother. She points because she's used to the mother looking where she points. The baby puts both hands up in front of her and says, "What's happening here?" She makes that screechy sound at the mother, like, come on, why aren't we doing this? Even in this 2 minutes, when they don't get the normal reaction, they react with negative emotions, they turn away, they feel the stress of it, they actually may lose control of their posture because of the stress that they're experiencing.
Okay. I'm here. And what are you doing? Oh, yes. Oh, what a big girl.
It's a little like the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good is that normal stuff that goes on, that we all do with our kids. The bad is when something bad happens, but the infant can overcome it. After all, when you stop the still face, the mother and the baby start to play again. The ugly is when you don't give the child any chance to get back to the good. There's no reparation, and they're stuck in that really ugly situation. There's no reparation, and they're stuck in that really ugly situation. There's no reparation, and they're stuck in that really ugly situation. There's no reparation, and they're stuck in that really ugly situation.
There is no empathy for black men. And this is what these people don't deal with and are incapable of dealing with. That there is no culture of empathy in the United States for black men. There is not in any arena or level of culture where anyone gives a damn about our emotional lives. You can't find it within the home. You can't find it within schools, K through 12, higher education. You can't find it in the workplace. You can't find it in goddamn music or popular culture. There is no empathy. So why in the hell should black men open up to anybody? Why? Why should you pour your soul? Why should you pour your soul into anybody? Why should you show your wounds? Why should you bear your scars? Why should you show the bullet wounds? Why? If there's no empathy.
I'm Phil, and this is Black Pill Therapy. And I just want to start this, first of all, by saying thank you to the Mad Professor, Dr. Ronald Neal, for his response that you saw at the beginning of this video, where I think he really did a great job putting words to the raw emotions that many of us feel as it pertains to the way that our pain is received or just, flat out ignored or ridiculed by society at large. I think that many of us can, as black men, can understand that sentiment. So I really appreciate him being so raw and articulate, in his expression there. And it makes me think about what I see this space doing for black men as a whole. Believe it or not, I see a lot of therapeutic benefit to this space that we call the Black Manosphere. It is the only place that some of us have to go to express our pain or share our emotions in the way that we share them, without being ridiculed or shut down. So I think this space has incredible value in that regard. I want to share a parable that I've often reflected on when I think about the manosphere and what I see it doing for black men. So it's called Babies in the River. And maybe some of you have heard it, but it goes like this. It says, there was a group of villagers on a riverbank who were just settling down for the evening when one of them sees a baby in the water. He immediately dives in, braving the fierce current, and rescues the infant. But as he climbs ashore, one of the other villagers spots another baby in the river in need of help, then another and another. Overwhelmed by the sheer number of babies, the villagers grab any passerby that they can get to help them. Before long, the river is filled with desperate babies, and more rescuers are required to assist the villagers. Unfortunately, not all the babies can be saved, and tragically, some of the brave rescuers occasionally drown, but they manage to mold themselves into an efficient, life-saving organization, and over time, an entire infrastructure develops to support their efforts. Hospitals, schools, social services, trauma and victim support services, life-saving trainers, swimming schools, etc. At this point, one of the rescuers starts walking upstream. "Where are you going?" the others ask, disconcerted. "We need you here. Look how busy we are." The rescuer replies, "You carry on here. I'm going upstream to find the person that's chucking all these babies in the river." So, I share that because I think many of us can relate to different characters in that parable. I think many of us at one point in time, or maybe still are, identifying with being the baby in the water, just kind of trying to figure it out. You're floundering, doing the best you can just to make sense of your experience. Other folks, they see themselves, maybe they've been rescued from that water and now they're going back in to rescue somebody else in one way or another, depending on whatever their respective skill set is. Many of us bring different expertise to the space. Some people are intellectually gifted and are bringing different philosophical skills, ways for people to frame their reality and make sense of it to navigate it more effectively. Others are focusing on physical health or strategies or whatever it is. People are bringing their respective skills and insights to the space and contributing in the ways that they can to promote the health and wellness of Black men. And even if it's just providing a space where people can go to vent and to know that they're not alone for a little bit, that in and of itself has therapeutic value. And so, I think we're just scratching the surface on what this space can be, and I hope that guys continue to contribute and more people come to the space and share, their respective interests and expertise, so we can continue to grow and evolve as a collective. I wanted to share that still face experiment video because I think it's key in helping us to understand why we keep coming back to these conversations about relationships. When it comes to our basic needs as human beings, one of the most important of them all is our need for connection. Our survival as a species has literally depended on us having meaningful connections with other people, primarily our caretakers, and our extended families. And so we are hardwired for connection, and we need it, right? And there's just no way around it. So I think one of the reasons why we're stuck having the same conversations over and over and over and over again about relationships is because I think many of us are continuing to seek out connections because we've never really gotten the kind of validation and empathy that we needed to evolve beyond depending on that external validation and empathy. When you're a baby, you're depending on your environment to validate you so that you can learn how to do that for yourself one day. When you're looking at that still face experiment and you're seeing this baby that is, pointing around the room and doing things to get the mom's attention back and all that stuff, that baby is using every tool that it has to express its intentions, its needs, and its desires. And it's up to that mom, i.e. that environment, to validate that so that baby knows, okay, my intentions are important. My needs are important. My desires are important. And the way that it gets that is by having a responsive environment. Well, what happens if you don't have that responsive environment? A lot of times you don't know what your intentions are. You don't know that it's not only okay but healthy for you to have intentions that you want to express in the world. You don't know what your needs are, not consciously. You don't know how to go about meeting those needs in a healthy way. And so a lot of this dysfunction that we're trying to heal from and clean up are all the workarounds that people have come up with to make up for the deficits in their support system. So this is everything, when we talk about connection. And so if our environment isn't able to do that, isn't in a position to offer us empathy and support, and we never really learned how to do it because we've never had that kind of support from the environment, then what do we do? And that's what I want to talk about today. What do we do? How do we start to heal any past wounds related to that, and not only heal but to move forward with intention and start working to get our needs met in a healthy and appropriate way so that we can start to fulfill some of our goals and our ultimate life missions. So that back and forth between the baby and the mom, where the baby is, doing its thing, mom's noticing that and responding to it appropriately. That back and forth that they're doing to coordinate their intentions and their emotions is called serve and return. And serve and return is really important to development. And so what do we do to get that servant return as adult men in an environment that isn't equipped to engage with us in that way? So I think one of the most important tools that we can have at our disposal is self-validation. We have to start to learn how to do this for ourselves first and foremost, and I think we have to learn how to start doing this for each other. And I think we already in the space do a pretty good job, in that respect. We acknowledge one another's experiences all the time, and so that we get that back and forth, I think, from one another. And so I want to share this tool of self-validation with the space today, just to give you an additional tool to improve your ability to do that for yourself and other people. Because like the Mad Professor said, there is no culture of empathy for Black men in this country. So if we don't do it, who's going to do it? Nobody is coming to save us. It's going to be on us to save us. So what does it mean to validate yourself? What is that about? Basically, self-validation is about taking yourself seriously. Many of us learn to put our needs on the back burner, to suppress our own natural desires and instincts and to show up in the ways that other people expected us to. And we did that because primarily for three reasons. One, we wanted to maintain our safety, right? So for whatever reason, it wasn't safe for us to express our true intentions, needs, or desires. Maybe we had some kind of unstable or abusive or controlling parent, or maybe they were unstable. They were gambling or addiction or alcoholism, or they're a workaholic, or something that otherwise made them an unstable or unsafe figure to rely on for our core needs, intentions, and desires to be met. So instead of following those natural impulses and instincts and getting that natural back and forth, we learned something else, right, to avoid some kind of negative outcome. That's the case for many of us. So instead of learning to be validated, what we got used to is being invalidated and finding some kind of workaround. And so many of us still invalidate ourselves to this day. What does it mean to invalidate yourself? Well, basically you minimize your own experience. Your gut tells you one thing and you respond by telling yourself that you shouldn't feel that way, or you don't feel that way. So you numb out, or you ignore it, or you try to overcompensate. So rather than trusting your own experience and using that experience to move you toward some kind of a healthy outcome, you do something else, some kind of dysfunctional workaround that you picked up that was the best that you could do, usually as a kid, but no longer serves you as an adult. So basically, when I say, we're going to self-validate, we're going to start to take our own experiences seriously. Mindfulness is an incredible tool in helping us to be able to do that. And I know, people can get real complicated when it comes to mindfulness. I try to keep it simple, when I talk to people about mindfulness. And so two of the most powerful tools that you can have when it comes to trying to promote some kind of mindful awareness is the ability to notice and the ability to be curious. So noticing just, what's coming up with you, your thoughts, your feelings, what you may want in that moment, any judgments that you might have in a moment. So you're just noticing it and being curious about it. Curiosity like, where did I learn that? Why might that be showing up right now? How might that be trying to help me? So it's very difficult to be angry or rageful or judgmental and curious at the same time. So curiosity is like a superpower. So if you can notice things objectively and be curious, that naturally starts to put you in a more mindful kind of disposition. And with that mindfulness, you can start to notice patterns, patterns that either help you or patterns that maybe are keeping you stuck. And that's the first step in starting to do something different. You can't change things that aren't serving you until you're aware of them. But in order for you to invite that kind of awareness, you've got to give yourself an opportunity to observe what's going on with you and to take it serious. Maybe take it serious in ways that your experiences have never been taken serious. Maybe you've, had nothing but relationships where you were either ridiculed or shut down or minimized when you expressed something that somebody else didn't agree with. So, changing that starts with you. If you don't take yourself serious, nobody else is going to take you serious. So, beginning to self-validate is incredibly important. Being able to accurately identify your feelings and focusing on your primary emotions, allowing yourself to feel your emotions and not escape from them with judgments or out of control actions or numbing them out. Although those are ways to start to self-validate. Respecting your own values. Many people don't actually know what their values are. I'm going to do a whole, I'm going to do a video on how to figure out what your values are, step by step, just an exercise to help you bring awareness to it. I say most of the time when people have stressful experiences, they're usually either one or two things or a combination of these two things at play. Either there's some sort of a core need that's not being met, or a value that's being challenged, or maybe even a combination of the two. So knowing what those things are is going to put you ahead of the game as far as knowing what's going on with you in the moment when something pushes your buttons. I don't even want to say triggered, because triggered is now taking on such a pop culture meaning that it's not really helpful, in moving you through the experience that you might be having. So I like to say the word activated, because when something's activated, it's activated for a reason. And when I can get to the root of what that reason is, and I can treat it with the attention that it deserves, then that's going to lead me usually to a place that is actually useful, rather than minimizing the experience. When we talk about people being triggered in this culture now, it's very dismissive. And self-validation is about doing the opposite, leaning into those experiences and treating them as if they're important, because they are. One of the most important things for us to be able to validate for ourselves is our negative emotions. And I put that word negative in air quotes because there are no bad emotions. All emotions have a purpose. And negative, what we consider to be negative emotions, have a really important job. Their job is to let us know when there's something that's going on that is either challenging a value, or we have some sort of an unmet need. So their job is to get our attention so that we take action. So what you're looking at right here is a feelings wheel, and it's one that is probably my favorite. If you Google feelings wheel or emotion wheel, you'll see different versions of this pop up. I like this one because it's separated into feelings that we experience when our needs are met versus feelings that we experience when our needs are not met. And so I like this one because it pretty much invites us to consider and start investigating what might be the underlying need when we have a negative emotion. So instead of us ignoring it or numbing it or minimizing it or whatever, it puts us in a position where, we can start to investigate it and take some meaningful action. And if you want to dramatically improve your life, getting to the core of what your top 3 to 5 core needs are and being mindful of the situations that challenge those needs and starting to try to structure your life in ways so that you get those needs met more often than not, that will drastically improve your life. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, But if you're able to achieve that, life's going to look a lot different for you. So validating those negative emotions is one place where you can start to really improve your overall quality of life. And again, the more you start to take those core needs serious and you start taking action to make sure that those needs are met, the more other people will also. Or, you'll realize the relationships that maybe aren't capable of, of having that kind of reciprocity. And then, you're in a position to make some decisions about whether or not those are relationships that you can maintain or relationships that you need to cut off, because maybe they're too damaged or draining for you to be able to salvage them. But knowing what your core needs are and having ways to get those needs met, very important. So much so that there probably won't be many videos that I make where I don't mention intentions, core needs, and desires. Like, you're probably gonna get tired of hearing me say it if you listen to these videos, because they're that important. I mean, they're pretty much the key of most of the things that people come into therapy for, in one way or another. So this last slide right here, again, gives you some ideas, ways that you can start to take yourself more seriously, i.e. begin to start self-validating. Regardless if your environment validates you or not, you have the responsibility to validate yourself. In doing so, literally starts to change your orientation to yourself in the world. So number one, respond in a way, taking action that takes myself seriously. Normalize my normative emotions rather than criticizing or judging them. Recognizing truly problematic behavior and target it for change. So any of those patterns that we might be stuck in that, are no longer serving us, or maybe even hurting us or lowering our quality of life, we start to take action on those things once we realize it. And hopefully in ways that actually satisfy the core need that might be driving them. Providing myself nurturance and support, or seeking it from somebody else who's actually in a position to be able to offer that kind of support, whether it's a friend or a relative, but somebody who's proven themselves to be capable of that kind of support. And then last but not least, and maybe the hardest one to do, find compassion for myself when I'm suffering, as I would for any other human being. So you're not better than anybody else. You're not worse than anybody else. So at least treat yourself with the same amount of compassion that you would a stranger. Many of us, are our worst critics. Things that we say to ourselves, we wouldn't dare say to somebody else. Things that we would do for other people, we withhold from ourselves. So let's try to bring that equation closer to balance, so that we're at least treating ourselves with the same level of compassion that we would any other human being, because we are human beings, and we deserve that just like every other human being. So with that, I'm Phil. This has been Black Pill Therapy, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.